Welcome to Every Child Belongs. I'm Kim Botto, an adoptive mom, grandma, and advocate for kids and teens with disabilities, as well as a longtime leader of kids and student ministries. In this show, we explore how we can create spaces where every child feels heard and valued, whether neurodivergent, differently abled, or they've experienced trauma. Every child belongs. We'll hear from educators, parents, professionals, and more, finding practical ideas that help build a compassionate and supportive world for every child. Let's get started. I am so happy today to have Sissy Goff with us. Sissy, like your professional resume, you're the executive director of Daystar Counseling, and you've been there for 30 plus years. You have a super popular podcast to highly recommend, Raising Boys and Girls. You're also the best-selling author of a whole, how many books, Sissy? How many books is it now?
That's terrible.
That's
13,
terrible.
14, I don't
13,
know.
14. I want to personally say thank you. I have read all your books, but especially the Braver, Smarter, Stronger, which is for kind of elementary age girls. It's a workbook. I have gone through it with two girls that are very dear to me, and it has made a huge difference. So thank you.
Oh, Kim,
People,
thanks for saying that.
look up that book. Okay, and then as far as just who you are, Sissy, when I think of you, you're a calming and reassuring voice with
Mm.
practical tips, strategies, and hope when the world is really hard. And you have been involved in some really, really hard things. You give us resources. You give us words to communicate with our kids. You give us the confidence to talk about this stuff that sometimes we just want to go in our room and put our head under the pillow and not think about it. But that's not the right thing to do with our kids. So you are my go-to person. When something hard's going on in the world, I get on there and see what you have to say. But Sissy, you're not just my go-to person. You're kind of fancy. Like you've been on Good Morning America and, ABC News and all these big news shows, but it's because of who you are
Mm.
and the calming influence you are. We need more of you, Sissy. So thank you.
What a compliment, Kim.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
I'm so appreciative of your work.
Mm.
But I'm sure I left some stuff out. Oh, one thing. You love Arkansas Razorbacks. I love University
Yes.
of Kentucky, which are both SEC teams. So when I'm not rooting for UK, I will root for the Razorbacks. So what
Well,
else?
and you have on Razorback Red today, so there
do.
we go.
I do. I don't actually like blue other than when UK is playing. So, but what else, what did I leave out? What else do you want people to know about you?
Well, as you said, I have been a practicing therapist for 30, going on 33 years, and I get to counsel kids and families alongside my dog, which is really fun. She's my therapy assistant and goes to work every day with me. And my favorite job right now, so I have a really interesting family dynamic where I was an only child until the age of 16 when my parents told me they were pregnant. My mom said that my first response was, "I didn't know y'all did that anymore." So I have one sibling. She's 16 years younger and just a joy in my life. And she lives 3 blocks away. And we lost our mom 5 years ago. And so I get to be aunt and really kind of pseudo grandmother to these two little boys that I adore. When I'm in town, we
Yeah.
have now, I don't know what you called them in Kentucky, Kim, but in Arkansas, we called sleepovers bunkin' parties, which I think is way cuter. And so
Bunkin'
we have a
parties.
bunkin' party at least once a week if I'm in town.
I love that. I have one of my 10-year-old grandsons is spending the night with me tonight. Bunkin' party.
Oh,
I'm going to tell
bunkin'
him.
party.
I
Isn't that a
love it.
cute name?
It's a really
Yeah.
cute name, and you are the best aunt ever. I love seeing
Mhm.
you with your nephews.
Well,
So,
we have a
it
ball together.
yeah. Is there anything else you wanna tell us about yourself?
Those seem like the big things right
Okay.
now.
Okay. Well, let's dig in. As you know, I think church should be the safest place for a kid. And often it's physically safe, but church should also be an emotional and spiritual safe place too. And it's not always that way. And I attribute a lot of it because we don't understand kids. So, Sissy, what do you wish every church leader understood about today's kids?
Whew, that is a really great question. I think I mean, we all know this, but the world is just more complicated than it has ever been. And I think they're inundated with more pressure and more intensity than we were when we were growing up. And so, I mean, in some ways, I think the rub dirt in it idea was good in that I think we had some resilience that is missing today among kids, which we can sure talk about.
Sissy, everybody might not know what rub dirt in it means. Can you explain what that means, please?
Well, I'm not even sure where it comes from. It's just an old thing we say in the South, probably especially where if you fell and scraped up your elbow, they would say just rub some dirt in it and keep going. But I don't think it works anymore. And I think there's a better path where we can help kids feel seen and heard and understood. We can have tools to equip them when they feel overwhelmed, and we can help them learn resilience, all of those things.
So how do we do that? How do we with a
Mm,
kid that we're not with all the time, but a kid on the weekend, how do we be that safe place, not rub dirt in it,
mm.
and
Yes.
help them be more resilient?
Well, I think it's a really important question because I would want to come at it kind of in two fronts. Because
Okay.
one of the things that I'm seeing more than ever before, I mean, we're seeing more anxiety in kids than we've ever seen. We're also seeing more anxiety in parents than we've ever seen. I read an article in HuffPost. It popped up on my news feed yesterday that talked about how educators are concerned about all these basic skills that kids aren't learning. It said they don't even know how to peel their own fruit because everything's being cut up for
Oh,
them.
wow.
And I think in this age of parents wanting so badly, it's the best of intentions to be really good parents and really help their kids. We're overdoing for them to the degree that they're not learning to do for themselves. And I have written, you mentioned a couple of them, but I've written 4 books, I think, on anxiety at this point, and the
Mhm.
layman's definition I came up with is anxiety is an overestimation of the problem and an underestimation of ourselves. And so when we step in and rescue kids, we're basically affirming that definition. It is too hard. You can't do it without me. And so I think any of us who are trusted voices for adults in this day and time need to be helping parents understand what they can do to help their kids learn resilience. And some of that, I mean, I jokingly in parenting seminars, I mean, I'm very serious, but I'll try to playfully say, what are 2 things you're doing right now for your kids that they can do for themselves? And what are 2 things you're doing for them that they can almost do for themselves? And I want you to stop doing all 4. And so I think there is an element of helping parents understand how dire what I might even call a crisis of capability is among
Mhm.
kids today. We
Mhm.
might have a book on pre-order called Capable that I don't know if I'm really allowed to announce yet, but
Oh, do you oh,
that's coming out in the spring
good.
because I feel so concerned about this, David Thomas and myself. But at the same time, I think it's really the way that we engage kids, I think helping them understand things are going to be hard. You know, John 16:33 of in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. That things are going to be hard and God is with you, number 1, and number 2, he's given you what it's gonna take to face whatever the hard thing is that's in front of you.
Yeah, I love that quote you said. I have all these quotes written down because I highlight all your books, and I was just gonna come on and say, "Okay, I'm just gonna read quotes to you, and then you just tell me more." But the but the overestimate the threat and underestimate
Mm,
themselves and their ability to cope. Okay, if we are an adult in their life and we're looking at what they consider a threat and we're going, it's the wrong approach would be, "Oh, that's not that big a deal." But what
yes.
what is the right approach to help them understand they're more capable than they think, and that thing that they're so afraid of isn't as big as they think?
Yes. Well, we always wanna start with empathy with kids, and that does so much in helping them regulate themselves, so I would say if you have a little one, I would get down on their level and say, "I can tell this is making you feel a little nervous and a little bit worried, and I so get that, and you are not alone. I'm here with you. God is here with you, and you can do this. Let's figure out how to tackle it together." Or we talk about chunking. That's a psychology term that basically that old adage about how do you eat an elephant, which is terrible because none of us would ever eat an elephant, but
Right,
that it's
right.
bit by bit. And I think sometimes things seem insurmountable because they're looking at the whole elephant rather than how do I step into this one piece at a time. In the counseling world, we call it exposure therapy. And with each exposure, each scary thing, they're supposed to stay there until it doesn't feel so scary anymore. And then they take the next step. So helping them walk their way towards that.
And we can do that with a kid that we're with just a couple hours a week.
Yes, absolutely.
We can and so tell us how we would do like, chunk it up. So give us an example of something that a kid might bring to us, and then how do we do the elephant a bite at a time? How would we help them break it up?
Well, I think say one thing. Say you're a Sunday school teacher and you have a third grader who doesn't want to come in the room because they heard somebody in at school was throwing up on Friday. And so now they think if I'm around kids at all, somebody's going to be sick and then I'm going to get sick. We have heard this one so many times from kids. And so for that one, you would get down on their level and say, you know what? Let's take 3 deep breaths together because anything is easier when we're taking deep breaths.
Mhm.
And so you would take deep breaths together. You might pick a verse and you would say, I'm going to say the first part, you say the second part after I teach it to you. And then let's go and let's sit in the desk farthest from that child that you're nervous about. Or you can sit in the one that's kind of at the back of the room. And then maybe when I wink at you halfway through class, you can move a little closer. And then you can move a little closer. And then you can come sit right next to me. And I'll be right here. That we're just gradually doing that.
I love that approach. What do you say to leaders? Because I've had people say to me that I'm too soft, that I'm giving in, which I believe if we give a child what they need, that's not giving in, that's
Mm,
giving them what they need. But
yes.
how do we help people understand the importance of doing this?
Mm. Well, I think when it's the 2 together, when it's empathy and it's helping them do the hard things, I don't really know how anybody wouldn't be on board because I think any of us who take a more probably those of us who take a harder approach had parents or grown-ups who took a harder approach with us, and if we were honest, a little more empathy might have been really nice.
Yeah, yeah,
And so helping them even see the purpose of when we can be empathetic with a child, when we can start there, we're going to immediately communicate to them that we're on their team, which then is going to be easier to motivate them towards doing the hard thing rather than trying to push them towards it screaming and crying, which we
right.
might get otherwise.
Right, right. I think there's been such changes, though, in the last couple decades about how we interact with
Yes.
kids, and it's hard for some
Yes.
people to
Still.
do it the new way. Do you have any? Because I think sometimes science, the science of the brain or statistics helps people go, "Oh, okay. It's not just Sissy being sweet little Sissy saying be kind to the kids." Do you have any science or statistics we could use to help convey this?
Yes. Well, I mean, 1 in 4 kids are dealing with anxiety. 1 in 3 adolescents, girls are twice as likely to deal with it as boys. And so, if you are a church leader, if you've got a Sunday school class, that means a fourth of your class is dealing with more than just, I get nervous from time to time. They're dealing with what can feel to them crippling. And part of what's happening from a scientific standpoint, Kim, when you and I are talking, we have blood flowing all throughout our brains, including going to the prefrontal cortex, which helps us think rationally and manage our emotions. When we get anxious, when kids get anxious, the blood vessels in our brain constrict and it shifts the blood flow away from the prefrontal cortex into the amygdala. That's the fight or flight region of the brain,
Mhm.
which is why parents say to me daily, my child's like a crazy person when they get really worked up. Right, because their thinking brain, their reasoning brain isn't even online.
That's right.
And so if a child is standing in the doorway starting to feel anxious and we say, "That's silly, come on in." I think with kids, intensity translates to anxiety. I think they immediately we have set their amygdala in motion. And they're going to get more and more emotional and less rational in those moments. And when we get down on their level and we offer empathy, that is one of the best ways to get kids to regulate. And 20 seconds of deep breathing begins the process of resetting the amygdala.
Oh, I've never heard that. 20 seconds.
20
We've all got
seconds.
we've all got 20 seconds.
Yes.
I mean,
For me too, when I'm frustrated in traffic, if I can do
mhm.
some deep breathing for 20 seconds, I want to be in a totally different place.
Or if we think if we're getting dysregulated because of the child that we are interacting with, we've all got 20 seconds where we can just reset and let them and
Yes.
then join them. That's yeah.
Yes.
Because anxiety is I think you said this in one of your books, it's a primary mental health problem in kids and teens.
Yes. And the most treatable.
So, treatable, tell me more about that.
Meaning that, I mean, I do think anyone who's anxious, and we can talk about this, this was certainly in Braver, Stronger, Smarter that you talked about, but
Mhm.
every child I've ever seen, every adult I've ever met is conscientious. They try hard. They're really bright. It's an issue of folks with a lot of intelligence. Things matter to them so much. They're the most amazing kinds of people. And so I don't think you can change that. We certainly can't change the conscientiousness, the intelligence. But what we can do is turn the volume knob down, not on the thinking, but on the overthinking. And so in that, I think it is the easiest to learn to manage of all of the mental issues, hurdles, whatever we wanna call them that we might face.
When you say the overthinking, another quote that I love that you say is, "Worry has no memory and assumes the worst."
Yes.
Is that part of the overthinking?
Absolutely, yes. The assuming the worst, I think, is I can't. It's like we said, it's too hard, it's too much. And the worry has no memory is something I read in the research, which basically means if I have learned some skills to handle my worry and anxiety, the next time I come upon a hard thing, it's like the skills are out the window and I don't remember, especially kids, that I've ever done anything hard or brave before, which is one of the reasons I love when kids develop what we call milestones, that it's something that I think, "Okay, if I did that, I can do this. That one was so hard, then I can certainly handle that." And I think even as adults, it's helpful for us to have those things.
Sure. So when you talk about them forgetting, is part of the reason they forget is because they've become dysregulated and the thinking part of the brain has gone offline?
Absolutely.
So just the calming exercises you told us about?
Yes, gets the brain right back online.
So, I mean, when I work with leaders, I think teaching calming exercises is so important because that's where it all starts. So, what are some of your favorite? You're with a kid who is obviously dysregulated. Give us some of your favorites for the different ages.
So, little ones, I would get down on their level, like we were talking about, and I would say, "Hey, I want you to take 3 deep breaths with me. I want you to put your hand on your leg, and we're gonna draw a really slow square. And we're gonna breathe in for 4 seconds, pause for 4 seconds. We're gonna breathe out. I'm drawing the square if you're not watching, but
Right.
breathe out for 4 seconds, pause for 4 seconds. And we do the whole square. And again, for at least 20 seconds, we're gonna draw that square. Now, there's also you breathe in the flower and you blow out the birthday candles. There are a million ways to do great deep breathing with kids.
Right.
And I would with teenagers, I would say the same. If there's a way to say, "I think it would really help if you took 3 deep breaths," or, "Hey, why don't we take 3 deep breaths together?" We don't wanna sound patronizing to them.
Right.
A
Right.
and then I start with breathing. Now, boys sometimes can't get to breathing when they have a big surplus of energy, and so David Thomas, who is both of our friend and
Mhm.
works with a lot of boys, would say he has boys move before he has them breathe. Go run 3 big loops around the kitchen island, or run up and down the stairs 3 times, or go run around a lap around the house and come back and check in with me. And then we take the deep breaths and then we calm ourselves down because they've had a release of some of that energy.
Mhm.
And then we typically move toward what are called grounding techniques because if I'm feeling anxious, I'm in the past and the terrible thing I did, or I'm in the future and the awful thing that might happen. I'm not in the present moment. And so when we can do something that focuses strongly on the present, we pull ourselves out of that looping anxious thought. And so With little ones, I'll say, "Tell me 5 things you see." Just it's all the senses. Tell me 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you feel, tactile,
Mm-hmm.
2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. With older ones, we'll say, "I want you to count backwards from 100," or if they're a little bit older, 100 by 5s.
Oh,
Now, my high school girls, I would say count backwards from 100 by 7s,
oh,
which is really hard.
yes. You have to think about it.
Yes, that's the point, exactly.
Yes.
Any of those things require focus.
Yes. Yeah, and it just doesn't take that long.
No, I have one girl, this is maybe my favorite thing I've ever heard, a little
Mm-hmm.
girl who came in to see Today Star for the first time, and we were talking about things that, she's found that help, and she said, "Well, I get really nervous at bedtime, and so
Mm.
I have started going through the alphabet in my mind, and with each letter of the alphabet, I'll think of a person whose name starts with that, and then I'll pray for them."
Oh,
And she was 9 years old and came up with that on her own. Isn't that
wow.
precious?
Yes. And prayer is regulating. It
Yes.
helps us calm and slow down
Yes.
and realize
Yes.
that there's something beyond us, which I want to talk about faith as we help kids because faith is very important to you and to me. So when we have a kid who's having a hard time, they're in crisis.
Mhm.
How do we balance talking about faith and trust in God without minimize what the big thing that they're going through? How do we do
Do
both?
do you mean more they're dysregulated in the moment or they're going through
Oh,
a bigger crisis emotionally?
they're going through a crisis right now, and
Yeah.
so it's probably not the time to immediately start reciting Bible verses and saying God works for good.
Yes.
So tell us how you use faith and also are there for them.
Well, and I love that you're thinking that way, Kim, because you're right. I think sometimes we say a verse, we say, "I'm praying for you," and we still should say that. I mean, hopefully that's true.
Right.
And I think sometimes we say those things because we don't know what else to say. And we're trying to kind of help them feel better or even help ourselves feel better. And
Yeah,
we
I
end up
think
making
that's
them feel worse.
yes.
Yes. So I think doing a lot of listening. Tell me what that's like for you. How have you been in the midst of it? What kind of feelings are you having? What kind of thoughts are you having? I think what has this been like for you spiritually is a really appropriate question for a kid who's in the midst of a hard thing. What has this made you wonder about God? I think sometimes we don't ask those questions too because we're afraid of what they're going to say.
Right.
And I think anybody who goes through something really hard, it's going to change our relationship with God and hopefully deepen it
Mhm.
as we learn to rely on Him more and in new, different ways. And so I don't want us to be afraid of asking those questions and knowing that kids are going to be on a journey too, a faith journey, and especially for adolescents. My experience, and I was just talking to a group of people about this week, my experience is that kids are hungrier spiritually than I have known them to be in 30 plus years. And
Mhm.
part of me feels like it's because things are so hard in our world.
Mhm.
And there is a sense of, I need hope. I want to know that there's more. And I want a faith that feels relevant to my life. And I think we used to do, I hope we're changing, but I think in raising worry-free girls, I talk specifically about John 16:33 and how I really believed pre-pandemic we were living this highlight reel and that even as believers,
Oh,
we were saying things like best day ever and living my best life.
for
And
sure.
what we know to be true as Christians is I'm living my best life for maybe 5 minutes a day. That is not
Right. Right.
life outside of heaven in a fallen world. And I think kids then, when they hit the reality, the weight of what it really means to live in a fallen world, I think they thought something's wrong with me
Right.
or this shouldn't be happening to me, rather than circling back to the promise of John 16:33 of in this world you will have trouble.
Mhm.
And I think it's important for us to talk about those things so that they know God can meet them in the midst of that trouble. He's not blinded to it or afraid of it. He's there.
And it's okay for them to express that it's hard and that they don't know what
Yes.
God's doing right now and they wish that God had a
Yes.
different plan. Do you think leaders why do you think they're adverse to going there with a kid? And how can we help them be more comfortable hearing, because I think if we're gonna be a safe place for kids, we have to be a safe place for their hard stories and their hard thoughts.
Yes.
So, encourage the leaders in that, Sissy.
Well, I'm gonna give some encouragement that is maybe challenge wrapped up in there,
Good.
because what I have found as a therapist for 33 years is that I don't want to be sad.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes I'm afraid for kids to enter into that sadness because I think it's kind of miserable. And I don't want them to feel that. And I've had kids who certainly say to me, I'm afraid if I start to let myself feel what it's like to acknowledge that my dad's really gone or whatever's happened to them, that the feelings are never going to stop. And I get that. And I think if we find ourselves trying to scripture kids out of their feelings or talk them out of their feelings or distract them, I think that's more often about ourselves and our discomfort
Yes.
with sadness and life. And so we don't know how to help them um, work through it. And I think it's really important that we learn how to sit with them in the midst of it.
So, what you're saying is the change starts in us
Maybe.
before we can help the kid.
Yes. Yes. When I led my very first Bible study in college, I will never forget the woman who was mentoring me saying to me, which I know you know this too, that you can't ever ask someone to go any farther than you're going yourself when you're
Mhm.
leading them.
Mhm.
And I think that has continued to be proven true in my life.
Mhm.
We've got to be doing our own work, just like we're telling kids to do and parents to do too.
Right. As we continue today's episode, I wanted to let you know that if you're looking for more resources, strategies, and encouragement for making sure every child belongs, head over to our website at kimbotto.com. Sign up for the newsletter to receive exclusive content and insider info on future episodes. Don't miss out. Go to kimbotto.com and join today. So, as we continue to talk about the world that they're living in and the hard stuff,
Yes.
there's constant change. I mean, the technology,
Mm,
the the world events. I mean, it just seems
yes.
like every day there's something that then they're so plugged into that. How do you think the church, but also just adults, how can we, in the midst of all this going on, how can we be the stable place for them and the place
Mm.
that gives them hope while also acknowledging what they're going through and what they're thinking?
Yes, it's so important. I had a dad who came to see me one day, and he and his wife, are don't have a lot of support outside of their friends. They don't have family support, and so I think they just wanted somebody to check in with regularly about their kids, and so we do what are called these parent consults, and he is the CEO of his company, and he came in and said, "I went to a conference, and at that conference, they said the CEO's job is to be the calmest person in the room."
Mm,
And he said, "Sissy, it made me think that's a grown-up's job too and a parent's job."
yeah, it is.
And I think as we're saying that, we all know we have a lot of kids in our lives whose parents don't know how to regulate themselves and who are anxious and reactive to all the things that are going on. And my hope is we can really equip and encourage parents to do their own work so they can get back to that place of calm. And sometimes I think those of us who are leaders and love kids, we're the only one that is in that space. And so
Mm,
it is so important, and I mean, we know we are living in a reactionary, divisive, angry world more than I ever remember,
yeah, we are.
and for us to be a steady, calm voice of kindness, and as you said, that it is safe, and I think when we have a lot of big emotion around kids, sometimes they cross us off the list of being safe because they can't share what they're feeling, and then what that does is I think it takes us out of the conversation. We're no longer a voice that they want to be a part of whatever it is they're thinking through or talking about, and when we can stay steady and safe and tell them the truth and be reasonable and listen more than anything else, it keeps us in the conversation.
Yeah. You up at the top when you were talking about kids being more anxious, you said adults are more parents are more anxious than they've ever been.
Yes.
What are some things I mean, I think, like, spend less time on social media and listen to the news, but what are some things that we as adults can do so we? Because 'cause you're right, if we're not calm, we can't help them calm. So what are some things that we can do? Or what are some things that you have seen that maybe have attributed to people being their anxiety going up?
I think you just said the 2 biggest.
Hmm.
Just quickly, which are exactly right. I think we've gotta really, really monitor our social media use, and not only our use, but who we're following,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of accounts, there are a lot of people out there who are just trying to stir it up,
Mhm.
and that's not helpful, and I think even from a I mean, I tell parents often, I want you to pick 2 parenting voices that you trust and don't listen to all these others. It's too much, and
Yeah.
everybody's coming from so many different perspectives that I think it's making parents feel like they're failing because they
Mhm.
can't follow all the different things that they're hearing. So, I would say that we're really aware of our social media use and that we're really aware of our news intake because it can feel consuming. It can feel like the world is just totally spinning out of control. I mean, so quickly and so easily, and that is not all there is to the story.
Right.
There are pieces of the world that do feel like that right now, but that's not all there is. And I think for us to put our phones down, turn off our TVs wherever you're consuming news, and that we're doing the things we know to care for ourselves, that we're going for walks, that we are getting together with friends and we're worshiping together at church, that we're in places that we know feed us, that we're watching silly shows. The older I get, the longer I counsel, the more I need television in my life and comedy,
Mhm.
because I know that fills me back up, that I'm playing with my dog, that I'm spending time with my nephews because they literally are helping my brain secrete more endorphins and serotonin. And so,
Yes.
what are the things that we know that fill us back up and pull us out of that? Because we've got to remember that there is good happening
Lots of good.
alongside the hard. And this is what we've been promised. And
Right.
Jesus has overcome it all.
Right. I think the good, it just doesn't make the headlines as much. It's not as apparently whoever decides what stories are the stories to cover. I don't think the good stories are the ones maybe that people tune into as much.
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned pick 2 parenting people to follow. I would say, you guys, follow Sissy Goff and also David Thomas and Sissy are at Raising Boys and Girls. Wait, did I say that right?
Kim.
Yeah, Raising Boys
Yeah.
and Girls,
Yeah. Yeah.
both on Instagram, and I am always so encouraged by what
Mm,
you guys put on there, and I think that is really good, solid advice.
thank you.
So, I
Thank
like
you.
to talk about what we should be doing, but I also know you work with a ton of kids.
Mm,
And I'm sure you have heard stories about where the church doesn't feel like a safe place. And I think we can learn from those things too. So there's some maybe trends that you're seeing or just some specific stories where maybe the church wasn't a safe place and just with some modifications,
mm.
we could be that place for kids.
Wow, that is a great question. And Kim, I really would say I think it's better than it's ever been. I
Mhm.
mean, I think there are more I guess I'm thinking I think most young kids feel really safe at church. I think it's a really sweet
Mhm.
space where they feel very loved.
Mhm.
I think it's trickier when they get to adolescence and they're encountering really tough things, making not great choices, but just going through a lot of heartache. And I would have said exactly what we talked about earlier, that I think platitudes is part of it.
Mhm.
But I think we're learning to get away from the platitudes. One thing that I feel, and obviously I'm on the therapeutic end of working with kids, but I think sometimes we over entertain kids
Mm.
and we lean too heavily on icebreakers and silliness, and we don't allow for the weight that they're not only carrying, but the depth that they can express what's going on. I think sometimes we can skim along the surface in a place that they're hungry to go deeper.
Yes. I totally agree with that. And we can still have fun
Yes.
and be a place to talk about hard things and ask our questions and process them with peers and a trusted leader. I totally agree.
Yes. The other thing I think is important right now is I work so much with girls that I think girls are meaner than they've ever been.
Mm,
And I think we are probably safe for kids, but how do we help their peers in youth groups feel safe? Because I have a lot of kids who are very intimidated to go into spaces with their peers, even in church, and that should feel like the safest.
right,
That should be places that kids are reaching out the most. And I think,
right.
when we do that, not only is the person who feels awkward and nervous to walk in, but the one that we just tasked with greeting the newcomers feels a sense of purpose, which is so good for kids from an emotional standpoint and a therapeutic mental health standpoint.
So you're saying that one of the ways we can maybe decrease the meanness is give them specific jobs
I think we could.
and give them tasks on, because you are right. There's a lot of tears when kids are in their peer groups because the way the peers are interacting with them. Well, as parents, how do we train our kids to be kinder?
Well, I mean, I think probably anybody who's listening to this podcast is already doing that. But I am seeing I mean, I feel like for the last 5 years, kids have been trending meaner. In the last 2 years, I'm hearing evidence in my office of more moms trending meaner. That moms are more concerned than ever before about their kids being in the popular group, feeling left out, and so they're reacting. And I think we have to be really careful in this day and time about the image-oriented movement of our culture
Mhm. Mhm.
and an influencer-driven culture, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. That's
Mm.
you talking about moms being meaner. That almost felt like a punch in the gut. But I think you're right, and probably goes back to what we talked about earlier as far as all the social media and comparing yourself to images that aren't really real. We're not seeing the real thing.
Exactly, and it's not all moms. It's just a small portion of
Right.
moms, but
Right.
it's gotten more vicious, I would say.
Yes. Yes. Where I think being in community with other moms who are telling you, helping you see what real life looks like and also calling
Mm.
you out. Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
So, okay, Sissy, as we wrap up, what do you wish that I'd ask you? What do you want people to know that I didn't ask you about?
Mm. I don't know that there's anything. You asked such great questions, but I think if I was gonna circle back to anything, it would be
Hmm.
that idea of it is so important as grown-ups that we are doing our own work.
Yeah.
Those of us who are in the lives of kids, whether it's leaders, whether it's parents, whether it's aunts and uncles and grandparents, that we're doing our own work.
Yeah. It's got to start with us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sissy, we wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
You said funny shows. I want to know, what are the funny shows you watch when you want to just relax and have fun?
Well, I just have started watching Seinfeld for the first time, which is really fun and
Oh,
funny.
yes. Wow, you're late to the game on that,
I
but
know.
I'm glad you joined in. I'm glad you joined in.
Me too.
Okay, if you could eat just one food, I think I know what it would be, but what would it be?
Mexican, hands down.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because if you guys start following Sissy and David, you guys do a lot of you do talk, isn't it Taco Tuesdays and your newsletter is talk about it? And yeah,
Yes, we talk about
okay,
tacos a lot.
I'm right there with you. Okay, what is a memorable gift from your childhood?
The first thing that comes to my mind, I wasn't really well, that's really adulthood. A memorable gift from my childhood would be a Sean Cassidy record because I had a crush on him.
Sean was the younger brother of David, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
He was a Hardy Boy on the TV show too, the Hardy Boys.
Yes,
He was
Sean
super
Cassidy.
cute.
Um, as I said earlier, you are the best aunt ever. So what are some traditions that you have with your nephews?
Oh, I turned 50 during the pandemic, which was not very fun to celebrate your 50th
No,
birthday doing that.
no.
And I bought a golf cart because it would be a fun way to go back and forth because I was with them all the time. And so one of our traditions is often when they come over, there is somebody in our neighborhood who has a creek running through their yard and they have all these geese. And so the boys and I'll pile in the golf cart and we'll go over and see the geese and just ride around. It's really fun.
Such a simple thing, and that's the things that kids remember. I love that.
Yes.
If you weren't in your current role, what would you be doing?
I would be a backup singer for Diana Ross.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
That's really my dream. Mhm.
Nice. I wanna see it. I wanna see it.
What would
I
you
love
do?
well, it's funny, and I swear I'm not copying. I would be a country singer with the
Ooh,
boots and the sequins, which is not at all how I dress ever, but I love yeah, I would that's what I would do, like a Carrie Underwood kinda, but I do love Motown
yeah.
because I went to
Yeah.
college in the '70s, so,
Oh, yeah, that's so fun.
Motown was the soundtrack of my college
Your
life.
jam. Mm-mm.
Okay, so this is the last one. Finish this thought. Every child
Well, belongs is what comes to my mind. Every child longs to be seen and understood and loved.
Yes. Yes. And Sissy, thank you for the work that you do that help us see and understand and love
Mm.
every kid, no matter what their background, behavior, or abilities are. I so appreciate your work. So what is the best way for people to find you and your resources? And we'll put stuff in the episode page.
Raisingboysandgirls.com is where everything is, and on Instagram, as you said, at Sissy Goff and Raising Boys and Girls, we're trying to put out as much helpful information as we can in real time as things are going on.
Yeah. I would yes, as far as real time, like when the flooding in Texas, you've had some school shootings that are close to you, but other school shootings, I always think get on your page, and you guys are
Mm,
very good about going, "Okay, this is the specific situation. Here are ways that we can support and care for our kids
yeah,
in the
thank
midst of
you.
it."
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. Can you also tell us about your children's books?
Yes, we are so excited. They're behind me where I'm sitting in my library, and we have a series of children's books called the Daystar Dog series based on the dogs that work with us at Daystar. And we have two new ones coming out in November. So they would make really great Christmas gifts. It's Happy Finds Her Calm because Happy gets a little dysregulated sometimes. And Pippa learns to share the spotlight because Pippa is an older sister and finds out she's having a baby sister. And so, if you're in that situation with those kids, they could be particularly helpful. And then we have Lucy finds her courage and Owen learns he has what it takes.
Yeah. And you and David are such dog people. I love that often the advice you will give is get a dog. Get a dog.
Often. Yes.
Yes, I agree with that. Well, Sissy, thank you so much. I hope to see you around on the conference circuit, but thank you for doing what you do. Continue doing it.
Well, right back at you.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Every Child Belongs. If you found today's episode helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to share this with a friend who might need to hear it. Together, we can create a world where every child belongs.